Anne Keefe has been with the Westport Country Playhouse in many capacities since 1973. She helped with the renovation earlier this century and served for many years as associate and co-artistic director with Joanne Woodward. She's also initiated and curated the very popular Script in Hand series. Annie stage managed at Long Wharf Theatre for 27 years and has been involved with the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp for 35 years with the Gala. She served on the Westport Country Playhouse board and the board of the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County. She's also taught at the Yale School of Drama and is in the Connecticut Women's Hall of Fame. I bow down to you. Annie lives in Weston with her husband, the well-known playwright and writer David Wiltsey. They have 3 very accomplished daughters.
Very accomplished.
Extremely accomplished, and 4 grandchildren. And what a resume. Welcome to 06880, the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's go back to the beginning. What,
if I can remember.
Sort of the beginning. What got you to the Playhouse?
Oh, well, the theater never pays enough to pay your bills. So that even though I had a steady job at Long Wharf, the summer looms large. And then when you think about just keeping the rent paid, I was looking around for other places to work. So I'd work at Westport in the winter and for several years at the Playhouse in the summer, back under Jim McKenzie.
Sure.
So I would do that for when it was real summer stock. It was sort of 12 shows in 12 weeks. You started on Memorial Day and you finished on Labor Day, and you had no days off because every day was full of something. It's really a young person's game, and I was relatively young at the time, and I could do it. And then I took some years off, and then I had a child, and then I came back a little bit in the 80s and the 90s to do some advancing, which is to get the production that we had put together and take it to Ogunquit and to the Cape Playhouse in Dennis. It was, it wasn't a full-time job, but it was enough to keep me going in the summer. And then Joanne Woodward and I and Joyce Ebert did Arsenic and Old Lace at Long Wharf, and it was one of the funniest rehearsal periods I've ever been in between the two of them, because they're both getting on. I mean, Joanne she's 16 years older than I am, and Joyce was up there as well. And so these 2 old ladies who have to carry the show, the rehearsals were hysterical because they were, they'd be trying to set a table and remember what their lines were at the same time. And I'd be standing, at my desk going, plates, napkins, forks, and they would set the table. As a result of that relationship, I went to Hole in the Wall for their very first gala, probably 34, 35 years ago.
And that was up there in Ashford?
Up in Ashford. There were 2 cabins, a little theater, and a dining hall, but very, not anything like what it is now, which is unbelievable. I mean, if you haven't been, find an excuse. It's
Sure.
Extraordinary. So I started doing the galas up there, and then I had a 16-year-old daughter, and the doors were slamming literally and figuratively all the time. And David said, you need to stop working until she is in college. You can't leave me with this child. We weren't newly married, but we were only 5 or 6 years into our relationship, and it was a lot to ask. And he had his own kids as well. So I stayed home, and it was really weird because you don't know who you are. You are your job, and without the job, I didn't know who I was. And I supposed I was a mother, and that's a lot, and a wife, and that's also a lot. But so one night I was having a dinner party on a night that wasn't a Monday. because you only get Mondays off in the theater, which makes your social life really hard. Restaurants aren't open. And I got a phone call from Joanne, and it was about 9:00 at night, and she said, "They've asked me to take over the Westport Country Playhouse, and I told them that I wouldn't do it without you." And I said, swell, because it's local. I wouldn't have to be commuting to Long Wharf. And it sounded fun. And I was familiar with the players, I thought, And so that was about 1999. And the rest is, as they say.
So what kept you there?
Oh gosh. Well, part of it was Joanne taught me that my skills were fungible, that, I had great organizational skills. I was a manager. I was a stage manager, which is sort of the hub of a wheel when you're in a rehearsal and performance. I knew a lot of people. I knew the plant. I knew the Playhouse building. I knew a lot of the players, and it was exciting, because you knew it was actually going to get done. This was going to get done because it had these incredible people behind it. Not to mention this amazing rump group of like 5 or 6 really committed board members who said, "Yeah, we're going to make this happen. We're not going to lose this theater to a shopping center or to some more, apartment buildings. We're going to make this happen." And I don't know, it made me feel important. It made me feel like I was really doing something important. And dealing with Joanne was amazing. She's instinctive about people and about projects and about when to say no. She has great instincts. And I learned a lot from her. So that's what kept me going.
So what is the importance of the Playhouse, both locally and on a broader stage?
Right. Well, in 95 years, we've taken something like 42 shows to New York. It used to be a place where, because the city got so hot, the Marshalls wanted to come out here with the Theater Guild. I'm pretty sure all of your listeners know the history. It's well,
Don't
it
be
was
so
a,
sure.
it was a okay. It was they wanted a place where they could make theater in the summer, where it was a little cooler than in the city. And
We're talking about 1930s.
1931, yes. And they lived in Westport, and they bought this barn, which used to be a cider press, and then it was a tannery. And they created a stage with an architect called Cleo Throckmorton.
Great name.
If you go to, I know, and if you go to the Dennis Playhouse on Cape Cod, our stages are not dissimilar because he did both of them. So he created a space that was pretty much the same size as their theater in New York, so that they could take things from one theater to another. And because it was the summer, a lot of people had time on their hands. There used to be seasons in Hollywood where, the season would start in September, October. And so people were off in the summer and people were looking for stuff to do. Hence those posters in our wall with all the biggest names
Sure.
in Hollywood for several decades. So Jim McKenzie, who kept it alive for 40 years, just really with glue and Scotch tape and gaffer's tape.
Tape,
And,
yeah.
it was just, there were no capital improvements really for 40 years because just to keep a minimal staff through the winter of like 3 people, and then ramp up in the summer with apprentices and interns, free labor. Well, not anymore.
Right.
Not anymore. And so he kept it going for 40 years, but it was at the time, it was gonna fall down if somebody didn't come in and raise enough money to make it better. It really was gonna fall down. There were gaps between the walls. In matinees, you could see daylight through some of the walls, and
But at the same time, I remember from being a kid, walking in that cramped lobby with the little narrow stairs, the wonderful smell of the theater, the air conditioning.
That moldy kind of, animal smell. Yeah. You should have been downstairs. Before we started every year, we had to chase out the feral animals. Somebody came in and got rid of the raccoons the best they could, and the squirrels and the possums and the occasional skunk. And because, it was nice and warm for them anyway, downstairs. But yeah, no, a lot of people talk to us about the smell. There's nothing we can do to replace that, thank God.
So you had this historic theater, decrepit, falling down, but historic. And you mentioned all the famous names, the Henry Fondas and the Eva Le Galliennes and Olivia de Havilland and all of them.
Yep, Billy Burke.
So what was it like for you to stand on that stage?
The old one or the new one? I stood on both of them. When I was standing on the old stage, I was a stage manager. I was working. I was just, making sure that everything happened when it was supposed to happen. But as we began to work on it, you stand on that stage and you take a little bit of ownership, and it's a completely different feeling. It's the pride you feel is not just because you've done a good job calling a show and making sure, everybody did what they were supposed to do and came back and did it again the next day. But when you stand there and look out now and think, wow, I had something to do with this. It's magical. And Joanne's commitment to it, because she was the one who said to the architects, I want this to be a fully functioning modern theater, but I want it to look exactly the same. Don't change a thing. And that was quite a mandate, because there were things that probably could have been changed and made better, but we had great architects who listened to her, and she was adamant about things like keeping the swags and the balcony and keeping the shape of the balusters, but then we had to make it an ADA compliant theater. That staircase you referenced was the only way to get to the balcony. So if you even had a sprained ankle, you couldn't get up there. And, when we were loading out the sound equipment at the end of 2003, somebody's foot went through one of the exit steps, the ones that went outside. Somebody's foot went through it. I mean, it was this close to just literally falling down. And I don't know, it was just, every day was exciting. I mean, to watch it happen, and really hard. Wow. It was, there was a lot to do.
What's your favorite part of the renovation, or the theater as it is now?
Oh, gosh. That's hard, because I love the mezzanine. I love being up there and being practically on eye level with the actors. If you sit in the front row of the mezz, it's great. I love the fact that we managed to save a small portion of the old stage, so that on both sides, stage left and stage right, there's a 18 by 18 inch square of the old playhouse, so that every actor and all of us, we're all very superstitious, can walk onto the stage and stand on a bit of the stage where all those people you mentioned had performed before. So I love that part of it. I even love some of the mistakes we made. The fly rail, this is technical boring, but the fly rail is stage right, and if we'd thought about it, we should have put it stage left where there's more room. But we made it work. It still works, and it's very tight backstage, but it still works. But I love the mezzanine, and I love the articulated seats, the no more snagging your stockings, not that anyone wears stockings anymore, on those, oh my God, they were just dangerous. They were an accident just waiting to happen every minute. So.
And people sit there now and they look at the little plaque, they say, whose seat am I sitting on?
I know. Yeah, well, it's all about fundraising, Dan. It's always about fundraising.
So we'll get to the fundraising in a minute, but when you look back on all your time there, any particular moments or shows or people stand out? I know that's a hard question.
Well, because there's so many. But there are a couple. Though in the old days when I was stage managing, we were doing a farce with what's his name, Louis, French. Like, oh God, I can't
The
remember
only
his name.
French Louis I know is Pasteur.
No,
But it
no,
wasn't.
no. Oh, damn it! Sorry.
And the 14th.
It was but it was a farce, and it was one of those things where it came in. We built the scenery downstairs, but all the props and the actors and the costumes came in, and we would do from another theater where it had been running the previous week. So they would come in. We would finish a show on Saturday and strike the set, and on Sunday we would load in the new set, put up the walls. And then in the evening, when it was almost ready, the actors would come in and do a spacing rehearsal. Then we would do a full dress for photos in the afternoon and then open Monday night. So it was very fast. The beauty was that the actors at least knew what they were doing, and the sets were pretty much the same. But it was one of those things, those three-door farces, where somebody, banged on the door and caught his wife in flagrante saying, I know you're in there, I know you're in there. And opening night, the actor banged on the door and it came off its hinges. And, the audience loved it. They thought it was just magical. And of course, the stagehands were mortified. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, now what? So, then the actor's standing out there saying, I know what you're doing in there. There are a lot of moments like that. Those things when live theater is dangerous.
Yeah.
You do live theater and something like that's going to happen.
So what have we, or you, lost and gained by the fact that, there's no longer a 1-week show and then the next one comes in, 12 shows in 12 weeks. Now there's 2 and 3 weeks and time between. What's been lost and gained?
Well, quality is what you gain. You get, things that are better rehearsed, sets that are built better because you have time to build them, and performances that have had 2 or 3 previews before they open, cold, and then run just when you get used to doing it, then it's time to close. So quality is better. It is that feel of summer stock, though, that you've lost. But it's hard to find it anymore. There's still around New England. There's still some summer stock theaters, or theaters that operate in the summer. But it's that, fast and dirty kind of. It was exciting to do it. You were on your toes the entire time because you didn't rehearse this play. It just came in and you had to take care of it. You hadn't even seen it. So,
but it had been done.
It had been
previously
done.
somewhere,
and they knew, and the lighting designer. So you'd write in some cues on Monday afternoon, and then you'd call them for the first time on Monday night, not really knowing the timing of the actors. There was just something. I don't know. It's like I say, when you're young and you're really on your toes and you're really thinking, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. And I wouldn't. Yeah.
So speaking of young. Do the young actors today know and appreciate the significance of this particular theater?
I really think they do. The temptation is to say nobody has a work ethic anymore. Nobody, understands history or appreciates history. But I think actors are a breed apart. I think they're here because they love it so much. And they're not paid enough. That's when I said the other night that it's, the artists who subsidize the theater. You can't pay them what they're worth, and yet they are passionate about what they do. And there are 99% of them come in and take a tour of the lobby and are just gobsmacked. Really, if they don't know every single one of them, they know Liza Minnelli, they know the Glinda the Good Witch. They know the people they've seen, and they watch movies. It's not like they don't know these people. So I think they appreciate the history and the stories and it's a wonderful space. It's a wonderful space to play. It's intimate and I don't know, it's just got a good cozy feel to it. So I think they understand and appreciate it.
And with all the different media,
Yeah.
live streaming and all that. What's the role of theater today? Live theater.
Yeah. Well, my own feeling is that there's nothing like it. It's I said it already, but I think it's dangerous, because every night something could go wrong. As way even into Broadway, it's not just because we're small and we're doing it here. Something could go wrong at any minute, and you get that sense of connection that you don't get when you've got a screen and their faces are enormous. These are real people with, real size and talking about real issues or just making you laugh. And
Both of which are important.
both of which are important. Yeah. And that's our challenge now. That's Mark's challenge now, which I think he really takes seriously. But I think it's hard to. I think the arts in any community make the community better. And this wonderful library, the arts center, the theater artist workshop, the number of people who live and work in this town with connections to the arts. It makes your community a better place. It gives you cultural opportunities that you're not going to get in every town that you could live in.
So you are not one of those who thinks, oh, Westport used to be an arts community, but it no longer is.
Well, I guess maybe because I'm in it, all my friends are in the arts community. There are a lot of them here as far as I'm concerned, and I still think of it as an artists community. Am I wrong? I mean, I've only been here 30 years.
No, you're a native. It is a very good question, and it leads into my next question, which is, do the young people who are moving in, all the people who are in their 30s and early 40s, they've just moved into their $5 million home and they have a 18-month-old and the wife just stepped down from her job and
as a
is
CEO,
pregnant.
yeah.
Do they feel a connection, one, to the arts and two, to the Playhouse specifically?
It's hard to speak to because I don't have many of those friends. And if I do, I have a 30-year-old friend who's just about to have her first baby. She's in New York. She used to be a theater person, and now, of course, she's had to step back from that. And I know how important it is to her. It sort of depends on where they came from. If they came from New York and had a history of going to the theater, it's important to them. But Anne Sheffer always says that the business of Westport is children, and that what people are looking for is something for their children to do. And I think eventually the Playhouse will give them that opportunity, whether it's some of the one-offs that we've started to do now, or our family festival of FamFest series of children's performances. And I think if they come in and they see that place, now that we're doing varied programs, we are bringing in more young people because they want to come and see a comedian. They want to come and see a certain concert artist. And so you hope that they bring their kids and then they see that this exists and they want to come back. So I think the other thing that's happening for the Playhouse is that our board is getting younger, that, some of these people who've moved in with a commitment to theater, they're not the 30-year-olds so much as they are the sort of late 40s, early 50s, where their kids are old enough to, do sports and stuff like that, but they're bringing in their friends. And I think one of the reasons to switch the mission of the Playhouse to more of a theater, that's first and primary, but to do some performing arts stuff as well, is because it can bring in that younger audience. And we hope that if they come in to see Colin Quinn and see this place, then they'll think, gee, maybe I'll go see The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yeah.
It's what we're doing now. We're learning now.
Sure.
And it's a steep curve and it's exciting. It's a 95-year-old startup again.
Right. And of course, You bring in the Colin Quinns to bring in money.
Exactly.
That's always a challenge, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, since the Greeks, theater has had to be funded by patrons. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any cheaper to build scenery or pay artists. They have to live, and you pass that ticket price on to it's that balancing act, and then not just selling out and do nothing but funny stuff.
Right.
It's
And it's a facility that, when it's not being used, there are many nights when it's been been dark.
That's right. Yeah.
Of all the people you've worked with, who stands out?
Oh gosh. Johnny Lithgow. I've known him since I was 20 and watched him grow as an artist, and he's still busy. He's my age. He's still busy. Ed Herman, wonderful actor. One of the finest things we did was a reading of a Joanna Glass play called Trying. I loved him. And then you saw them the other night. David Hyde Pierce, the world's nicest man, because I met all these people when we were all young, and everything we did was important. And I would stay with them. A director would direct the show and then leave, but I would be there through the whole rehearsal right to the end. And so I'd spend 10 weeks with these people, and they'd come in not feeling well, or they'd come in great, or they'd come in, having just gotten a good part, and all these things we shared. So, the nice people stand out. And of course, Joanne, because talk about your nice people.
Yeah.
Those Newmans,
and her husband.
Those Newmans were better than their hype. People would always talk about what great people they were. They're better than that. They're better than how great everyone thought they were.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was a real gift.
Quite a compliment. So we've got a couple minutes left. After all these years in the theater, what have you learned?
Well, that you shouldn't go into it if you wanted to retire early. I mean, that's the problem drawing people in now, is that we can't possibly compete with television and film. And it's much harder. People keep saying, we look at all these people on the walls. Why aren't they here now? Well, because they can do one episode of Law and Order and make as much as they make coming to us for...
Right, you're not going to get Ryan Reynolds.
Exactly, for 3 weeks and commute in the bargain, you know what I mean? Because there's no short-term housing around here. So you have to... I think you have to go in it because you can't imagine not doing it. No, I learned that I'm, the world's biggest hypocrite, that I will tell the actor that the designer's a jerk, and I will tell the designer that the actor's a jerk, and I learned that I can manipulate people. Gosh, I'm not coming across very well, am I? No, it's just you have to be a people person to do this, and I'm a people person.
So after 94 years, what is ahead for the Westport Country Playhouse?
Well, of course, we hope another 94 years. And this is a major change that we've gone through. I mean, we've gone through a lot. Joanne and I inherited a theater that ultimately was doing 6 shows a season. We took it down to 5 so that we could do some previews and not open cold. And then in the course of the time, we spaced it out. New people came in with new visions of trying to make it year round. And the change now is that we just don't think that a theater alone can be supported in this community, because COVID shone a light on everything that was wrong. The expense, the fact that you could sit at home and watch Netflix and get up and take a phone call and play on your computer and talk while it's going on. So this new experiment of being a theater/performing arts space is the next in a series of changes that we will continue to make until we've figured out how to keep the building where it is and people in this town coming to it. So it's changing. It's always changing. And I'm someone who likes the status quo really a lot, and change is hard.
Yeah.
But change has to happen if we
Sure.
want this place to stay. And we invested so much in it that it would be a shame to let it go, I think.
And what's ahead for Annie Keefe?
I'm on the board now, which is great because it's a very exciting group of people. And as a result, I'm more a part of a community. You know, I used to have only friends who were in the business, and they tend to live other places. But now I have a whole bunch of friends who live around here. So it's great. And I'm hoping to be able to make a difference, to bring people in to see that it survives. But I mean, I'm almost 80, so I don't have to do too much.
We
else.
won't be here for another 94 years.
No,
but,
I know, but the building better be, damn
the
it.
building better be.
Because I'll be watching.
Sure. You will be watching, and we hope that everyone who's watching this will be watching in their seats at the Westport Country Playhouse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They should give it a try.
Sure.
They should come see Ernest, and then they should come and see all the other single artists, and then they should just come. Just
There you
come.
go.
That's all you need to do. Show up.
Annie Keefe, speaking the truth, thank you for being on 06880.
Thank you,
podcast.
Dan. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
You bet.